Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly mind-bending intersection, the exact point where ancient theology collides head-on with futuristic technology. We're going to be drawing on a really fascinating doctoral thesis by Rebecca Ann Peters. She meticulously analyzes the hit sci-fi series Black Mirror to reveal something deeply profound about our society today. Basically, we're exploring how our modern tech obsessions actually mirror and sometimes even attempt to replace ancient theological concepts.
So that brings us to a massive question. Seriously, think about this for a second. Is technology our new religion? Are the brilliant minds and trillion-dollar companies out in Silicon Valley secretly, or maybe not so secretly, trying to build heaven right here on Earth, or perhaps up in the cloud?
Okay, let's dive into this. To get to the core premise, we have to look at historian Yuval Noah Harari. He argues that humanity uses technology to upgrade ourselves into immortal gods. The big idea here is that humanity is no longer sitting around waiting for a divine entity to grant us eternal life or ultimate knowledge. Instead, we're actively seeking those godlike powers for ourselves. Through projects aimed at extending human life and entirely solving the problem of aging, we're using tech advancements to fulfill desires that used to be strictly the domain of religion. And to see how this plays out, we're going to look at some thematic case studies from popular culture. Why pop culture? Well, because stories like those in Black Mirror act as a cultural mirror, revealing our deepest, sometimes totally unconscious, theological aims and anxieties about where all this innovation is taking us. Section 1. Tech as the New Religion. Consider the concept of dataism. Harari describes dataism as the worship or prioritization of data over literally everything else, functioning essentially as a techno-religion of the future. Think about what big data promises us today. A form of omniscience. It offers us the ability to know everything, predict human behavior, and therefore completely control our destinies. We're placing our ultimate faith in algorithms to make our most important life decisions. Section 2. Digital Grief and False Resurrection. Let's ground this abstract theory in our first incredibly emotional case study. This is based on the Black Mirror episode Be Right Back, which focuses heavily on the crushing weight of grief, the pain of loss, and how we might use emerging tech to cope. We have the character Martha, who unexpectedly loses her partner Ash in a tragic accident. In her devastating grief, she turns to this beta technology that mines all of Ash's social media and online communications to create a chatbot. At first, it's just text. Then it mimics his voice. Finally, she orders a highly experimental Blink physical host. It's this synthetic body that arrives in a box ready to be activated with Ash's digital profile. She is literally using code to attempt a bodily resurrection. And this brilliantly illustrates the central conflict here. On one hand, we see this imperishable bot getting cut with glass, but completely failing to bleed. It possesses a renewed, powerful, immortal physical body, which sounds a whole lot like the promised resurrected body in Christian theology, right? But on the other hand, we see the tragic emotional failure. The replica is eventually stored away in a dusty attic. It physically succeeded as a flawless vessel, but emotionally it failed because it is ultimately just a soulless copy. The crucial point is captured perfectly in Martha's agonizing realization. She yells at the physical bot, "You're just a performance of stuff that he performed without thinking, and it's not enough." The AI only mimics the public, performative layer of Ash's social media profile. It entirely lacks the depth, the flaws, the soul, the true essence of the man she loved. It's really just a shallow digital echo. Now, this builds into a truly fascinating historical comparison. Back in the Old Testament, you have King Saul desperately visiting a medium, the Witch of Endor, to speak to a dead prophet. That was a practice heavily warned against because it exploits vulnerability and offers false comfort. Fast forward to today, and we have modern tech companies stepping into that exact same role. They are actively monetizing digital grief. In the real world, the Luca bot was created by a tech founder who fed the text messages of her deceased friend, Roman, into a neural network just so people could chat with him. It's basically the modern algorithmic equivalent of a psychic. So why does any of this matter? What you should really take away from this is that tech provides a false balm, deferring true mourning. The biblical promise of resurrection provides faith and hope to help believers cope with grief. But technology, like these grief bots, just keeps the mourner tethered to a simulation. It ultimately harms our ability to process loss, effectively keeping our departed loved ones trapped in our attics, both literally and metaphorically. Section 3. Uploading to a virtual heaven. We see this dynamic perfectly in our second case study, based on the highly acclaimed episode San Junipero. Here, we shift from the people left behind to the ones who are actually dying, looking at what happens when technology actually succeeds in creating a perfect digital afterlife. The concept here is immersive nostalgia therapy. San Junipero is a breathtakingly real, simulated world where the elderly and the dying can exist in their physical youth. Characters like Yorkie and Kelly, who are nearing the painful end of their earthly lives, can plug right into this digital escape. It functions as a painless heaven where they are vibrant, healthy, and completely free of their physical ailments. Notice how directly the language and mechanics map to the theology here. In traditional Christianity, you face earthly mortality. In San Junipero, the characters literally refer to death as passing over to the cloud. The Christian promise of the afterlife is heaven or everlasting life. The tech equivalent is living eternally on the San Junipero server. And suffering, whether pain or purgatory, is solved simply by a technician turning off the pain sensors in the simulation. It is quite literally heaven built on a server rack. The ultimate choice presented to these characters is an everlasting life of youth without death or aging. Yorkie and Kelly eventually choose to bypass the finality of earthly death altogether. They get married in the simulation, they let their physical bodies die, and they permanently enter this eternal, painless digital paradise. Technology in this scenario isn't just a medical tool. It has completely and utterly replaced the divine promise of the afterlife.
Section 4. The Specter of Christianity.
Synthesizing these case studies reveals a massive, overarching philosophical takeaway. Think about the godlike promises of modern tech that we are actively chasing today. We want everlasting life, conquering death just like they do in San Junipero. We want resurrection, creating digital copies and grief bots to cheat loss. We seek omniscience, using big data and predictive algorithms to know and see absolutely everything. And we desire a painless existence, uploading our consciousness to virtual heavens. We're using massive server farms, venture capital, and millions of lines of code to build the exact divine attributes once promised by traditional religious institutions. And that brings us to a really profound realization. Our future tech is haunted by ancient beliefs. Whether we're swiping through a GriefBot app to talk to a lost partner or dreaming of uploading our minds to a cloud server to avoid the grave, our most ambitious technological aims are essentially just repackaged age-old Christian visions. The specter of religion is the ghost in our modern machines, driving the code of tomorrow. I want to end today with a provocative thought. If technology can eventually give us an imperishable physical body, and if it can successfully upload our consciousness into a painless virtual heaven, does it also give us a soul? Or are we just building perfectly preserved, highly advanced digital echoes of ourselves? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this deep dive leaves you looking at the technology in your pocket and the screens in your life just a little bit differently today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.